Today we're at Capilano River Regional Park. Hi, I'm Peter Lawrance, Park Interpreter for Metro Vancouver. Did you know that 2011 is the International Year of the Forest? So that got me wondering, how well do people know what lives in our forests? Today I thought I'd introduce you to some trees and give you some pointers that you can use to impress your friends with your ability to identify some of the iconic plant life in our region. What could be more iconic than our provincial tree, the Western Red Cedar? There's lots of them here at Capilano River, and they're easy to identify. Look for their long, drooping branches, flat needles that look like fish scales, and they have a most wonderful aroma. You'll notice that cedar bark has a distinctively stringy texture, which is why many First Nations use it to weave clothing, baskets, or rope, and the wood could be carved into poles, masts, and canoes. That brings us to another interesting fact about cedars. They're good for canoes or your back deck because they're resistant to rot. And that same rot resistance makes them perfect nurse logs. They're called nurse logs because as they decompose, they provide the perfect growing environment for other plants. If you find a small evergreen like this one growing out of a nurse log, it's probably a western hemlock. You'll recognize it from the drooping top. Even when it's a 150-foot giant, its top will still droop over. And although it shares the name with the poison drink that killed Socrates, this plant is not related at all. Lemony. This bark is a dead giveaway. Rough, creased bark with lots of furrows in it is sure to be a Douglas fir. And if you've ever bought a sheet of plywood, that's probably from a Douglas fir too, because they're noted for their strength. Now let's look down at what we call the understory. Sword fern is everywhere on the forest floor, and it's easy to identify. Each of the little leaflets looks like a tiny sword. En garde. This leathery leaf plant is salal. And if you don't recognize it from the forest floor, you may have seen it in a floral arrangement. Although it doesn't have any right now, it will grow clusters of white flowers that turn into dark purple edible berries. Here's another edible berry. Salmonberry blossoms are amongst the first to bloom in the spring, and they provide early food for hummingbirds and bumblebees. Later on, they develop into delicious berries. We haven't even mentioned any of the animals that live in the forest, but we're out of time and all of this talk about berries is making me hungry. So remember, wherever you live in the Lower Mainland, there's a regional park just waiting for you to discover. For Metro Vancouver, I'm Peter Lawrance.